Happy Friday. It's key matchup time. I'm Alex Barth. He's Evan Lazar from Gillette Stadium. Ahead of Patriots-Bills on Monday night.
A big one.
One extra day to work on the matchups this week. So, Evan, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to start with probably the matchup of the week, I would say.
Okay.
The only way that the Bills can win this game is if they get after Tom Brady, and that starts with Jerry Hughes, Bills pass rusher Jerry Hughes, against Patriots left tackle Trent Brown. Hughes mostly lines up on the right side of the defense, although they move him around a little bit. He's a very underrated NFL pass rusher, leads the league right now in total pressures. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Eagles' Brandon Graham, a guy that doesn't necessarily rack up a ton of sacks, but is always disrupting the quarterback and doesn't really get the love that a Von Miller or J.J. Watt or someone that has a higher profile does. But I really think that Jerry Hughes is one of the better pass rushers in the league. He's a veteran, very savvy with his handwork, his pad level, but he also has some great athleticism and get off the ball. So I think that he's going to be one of those guys. Ask Kirk Cousins, who he strip sacked twice in that game a few weeks ago, that if they're going to win this game, Buffalo, or even contend in this game, they're going to need to have Jerry Hughes at his best.
And on the opposite side, talk about Trent Brown, I think, coming off of what may have been his best game as a Patriot.
Yeah, it was a weird game plan from the Chicago Bears standpoint, so it wasn't a ton of rushes right over the top of Trent Brown, so there's a lot of times where he really didn't have anybody to block. It was a very weird scheme. Basically what they did was they dropped 8 into coverage, and they just tried to flood the back end of the secondary to try to, shore up some of those things instead of rushing the passer because they didn't have Khalil Mack at his best. But I do think that Trent Brown has really morphed into a very solid all-around player. A guy that if you remember early on in the season, I was very worried about his blocking in the run game. He's really developed that quite nicely. I think Dante Scarnecchia's fine work is kind of showing up in that.
Through.
Yeah, in that regard. And, he's always been a decent pass protector. So I think that Trent Brown has a big test this week against Hughes, who has very good pad level and very good speed off the edge.
So as I usually do, I'm going to break our rule of one player on one player. Sometimes I go one player on multiple players. Sometimes I go unit on unit. I got individual on individual this week, so I'm getting closer. I'm going to go Bills quarterback Derek Anderson making his second start in Buffalo, and Patriots head coach Bill Belichick. I know that seems pretty lopsided. It probably is, but Belichick's gone through all these weeks of facing these younger, mobile, kind of up-and-coming quarterbacks. Sure. And now he's got to face a guy that's been in the league for 14 years, that's comfortable standing in the pocket and spreading the ball around. I mean, he's facing a quarterback from an older era, a Tom Brady sort of quarterback. So how Bill's going to make those adjustments, I think he can make them, but it will be interesting to see. I think it's going to be a much different-looking Patriots defense this week than we've seen in other parts of the season. And Belichick spoke about it in his press conference on Wednesday. He was asked about game planning for Derek Anderson. Again, he's made just one start, played in only one game for the Bills. That was last week since he got there this offseason. Only played, I think it was 11 games in the last 3 years in Carolina. This is not a guy that you have a lot of tape on. Belichick says they have to work with what they have, but it's not as much as they'd like.
Yeah, from what I saw of him last week against the Colts, the one thing I will say that kind of speaks to your point here is that they had a kind of a sophistication about them that was a veteran quarterback was under center, whereas before, especially with Nathan Peterman, it was kind of just a disaster. The offense wasn't on time. They weren't getting the ball out quickly. He's getting the ball out really quickly. 2.5 seconds right around there is where he's getting the ball out every single time. He's not the type of guy, what they faced, like you said, last couple of weeks with Mahomes and Trubisky with the inexperience. Those two guys, they really kind of tricked them a lot with some of the blitzes that they did up front and some of the dropping of the linebackers and blitzing the edges and dropping the edges and blitzing the linebackers and doing all that kind of stuff. That's not going to work against Derek Anderson. This guy has seen it all.
You can't force Derek Anderson into mistakes. You have to just accept that you're hopefully defensively, athletically superior to him. You're going to have to go out and make plays, whereas with Trubisky, he would panic. He was overthrowing. He was underthrowing. You had Mahomes make some poor decisions when he got under pressure. You're not going to get Derek Anderson to panic. You're not going to get Derek Anderson to make these young quarterback mistakes because he's 35 years old. He's been there. He's done that. He's seen that. This is a guy who was a Pro Bowler at one point with the Cleveland Browns, believe it or not. So I think there is the reason I'm picking Belichick is not because, Derek Anderson's going to get the best of a Bill Belichick defense, but it's almost this defense has so much momentum going in one direction. They've been doing the same thing every week, and it's getting better and better and better. And now Bill Belichick kind of has to stop that momentum and reverse it and say, okay, now we need to look. It's part of the perils of being a game plan team. This is why everybody does this. You want to be a game plan team in theory, but not everybody can do it because it's not so easy. Now he's got to completely turn that momentum around, bring everybody back, and start from square one and say, okay, new quarterback, new prototype, new game plan.
Right. No RPO this week.
No.
We've been talking
about
We have
not heard RPO this week.
We've been talking about the RPO.
Which means the Bills will run about 20 of them.
Yeah, we've been talking about the RPO for every week for a month now.
Yeah.
Dating all the way back to the Miami Dolphins, even dating back to week 1 against the Houston Texans.
Right.
There's no RPO this week. There's no inexperience. There's no, smoke and mirrors that can confuse a young quarterback. Right now with Derek Anderson, all you have to do is really limit his deep throwing, passes to receivers, not allow them to get open downfield, and try to get him to beat you from the pocket with his arm, which he struggled with last week against the Colts.
All right, we'll see. Any other matchups we missed you think are worth talking about? Let us know in the comments down below. As always, you can tweet at us at Patriots CLNS and check us out online at clnsmedia.com. We will have you covered up to and throughout the game. Evan and I will both be in Buffalo on Monday night. So we hope you follow along all night. It's bundle up. It's going to be a cold one. For Evan Lazar, I'm Alex Barth from Gillette Stadium. Thanks for watching.